see a push, you see a shove, and there you go.
Karmelo Anthony appeal and how he has a new legal team and they're going to help him appeal.
Karmelo Anthony gets an all-star legal team when he is the one that committed that action of taking somebody's life away. Is it self-defense? Please let me know in the comment section. If the man is innocent, then by all means, this is good for Karmelo Anthony. But with the evidence that has been shown, that has been going on for about a year now, ironically, the tape has been released.
The amount of energy I'm getting from people, and it's a lot of black people, calling Karmelo Anthony a murderer and he got what he deserved. And why are you saying he deserves a fair trial? A murderer, a murderer, a murderer, a murderer.
I don't understand why he is getting so much sympathy and remorse from the community when he took somebody's life away. Let it be your own child. Would you still have that same type of energy?
My thing is this. If that's the energy you got about any of this, then you should have that same energy for that young man who was shot in the back by that gas station owner.
That is not the same situation of a gas station clerk getting shot from the back with Karmelo Anthony bringing a knife to attract me. How is that the same thing? But consistently, ladies and gentlemen, all over the web and in real life, people are mixing race with this situation as if Karmelo Anthony was not in a good neighborhood. It's not like he was growing up in the ghetto. The man was in a good neighborhood in Frisco, Texas, and now he's serving 30 plus years in TDC because he decided to bring a pocket knife, remove the pocket knife from the situation. Most that would happen, probably he would get suspended, maybe expelled, maybe sent to a alternative school, maybe even have to repeat his 12th grade year as a senior, but anything would be better than serving 30 plus years in the big boy pen, TDC, weighing a buck 130 pounds. Stop the cap. How does he get so much sympathy? Nobody told him to bring a pocket knife to school, and it was open. First of all, you know what they were saying, ladies and gentlemen, about the pocket knife? That it wasn't even a pocket knife. They was calling it a cleat sharpener.
Stop the cap.
A cleat sharpener. What? So what is a cleat? It's a shoe that you use to run and track. That doesn't look like a cleat sharpener to me. That is a straight pocket knife. Then another goalpost move that they love to bring up is that you have the right to defend yourself. Absolutely, you do have a right to defend yourself. Not on school grounds should you have a weapon, because not only are you endangerment to yourself, but you are endangerment to everyone around you in the school. The last thing a student wants to know is that the next student has a weapon in their personnel. If it's that serious, another conversation needs to be, there needs to be a metal detector in the front door if it's that serious. But he was in a good neighborhood. There was no reason to bring a pocket knife. So I'm thinking to myself, because you always, when you hear stuff, you can't just go with the narrative. You have to think for yourself. I'm thinking, why did he get 30 plus years if he's a first time offender? And please excuse the noise outside, they cut in the grass. Why is he getting 30 plus years as a first time offender? Big boy, premeditated?
Suspect. All right. Okay. He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
And this photo of the Ozark Trail multi-tool knife that prosecutors say Anthony used to fatally stab Metcalf is part of the trial exhibits that jurors saw during the murder trial. And audio from the 911 calls to police following the deadly stabbing were also made public. Listen.
Frisco 911, what is the location of the emergency?
Hi, we're at Kuykendall Stadium. My friend just got stabbed.
Okay, do you know who stabbed him?
We have no clue. He was sitting in our tent, but you need to send an ambulance right now.
They're on the way, okay? Give me a description of the person that stabbed him.
He was wearing a gray Essentials hoodie.
And this surveillance video shows Anthony fleeing the tent where he stabbed Metcalf. A jury found the now 19-year-old guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced him to 35 years in prison earlier this month. The judge, reflecting on his decision to release this evidence now, saying this, quote, "I understand the public's desire to know what happened in the courtroom. The overwhelming focus on my ruling regarding the media in the courtroom was to protect the process, witnesses, and jury. Now that the trial is over, it is important to me to provide transparency."
Hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me. What's happening right now?
victim is over here in the north end. They got staff standing to him right now. This is the latest suspect. Already? No. We searched them. Got nothing. I don't know what happened.
Minimum 25 years, and it's because he had a weapon on his personnel, and that's how the jury had to see. Get this guy out of here. Lock up the key. 30. They was trying to give him life, and they gave him 35 years. He should be somewhat grateful. He will eventually see the light of day. Some things you cannot justify. Even if Austin Metcalf said the hard ER, and Austin Metcalf pushed him, put his hands on him, you know what people are saying? Oh, tell Austin Metcalf parents that now they know to keep their hands to themselves. So you telling me, ladies and gentlemen, that a push is justification to get stabbed in the heart on school grounds? Maybe in the street. Okay, on the street, don't touch nobody. Absolutely. You have the right to defend yourself in public, but they moved the goalposts as if these boys wasn't at a track meet, which is school property. Stop the cap.
Stop the cap. This is sick to me. I can't understand how y'all keep calling this young man a murderer, right? And he was sitting there minding his business.
So Austin Metcalf approached Karmelo Anthony 8 minutes later after Karmelo Anthony was sitting underneath a tent that he had no business being there because 1, he was suspended, 2, he was at a rival school. Who goes to a rival school in the first place? 3, ladies and gentlemen, people are saying, well, how come Austin Metcalf couldn't just tell him to move around? Well, let's stop the cap. Your team captain, Austin Metcalf, receives news that Karmelo Anthony is on school grounds. And you approach him. We've been there, done that, ladies and gentlemen. We can't not say that we have not gotten in trouble in the past. So was Austin Metcalf necessarily wrong for putting his hands on Karmelo Anthony? Yes, you should never put your hands on somebody. But to justify the reaction from a push for a knife being thrown into the heart is crazy work. Talking about you have the right to defend yourself. Not in Texas, not on school property, not on nowhere where there's a school can you have a knife on school property. Now we know in the ghetto you gotta do what you gotta do, and if you're caught with a knife, they know what time it is because you're in the ghetto. You may get some sympathy, but this is in Frisco, Texas,
And they marched over there.
Here we have Austin Metcalf about to approach Karmelo Anthony. Now, do you see a weapon and a personnel of Austin Metcalf? No, you don't. They were trying to push a narrative that Austin Metcalf was surrounded with his brother and 200-pound white boys that was going to jump Karmelo Anthony in school property as if his life was on the line. His life was on the line. He may have got an approach, but he wasn't in jeopardy of losing his life. Stop the cap. You think he's going to lose his life at a track meet? Stop the cap.
Bully him, right? They bullied him. Because the dude, if you know the background of those twins, they were bullies.
For the record, nobody should get bullied, but to justify a stabbing to the heart because somebody is getting bullied, outnumbered, allegedly jumped underneath a tent does not mean that you can use your God-given brain on top of your shoulders, pulling out a pocket knife that was once told to be a cleat sharpener, that was once told to be everything else except for a knife. How on your God-given prefrontal cortex decision-making mind do you think that you're going to get a pass? Then the man disposed of the knife after using it. Then people saying that the knife was never Karmelo Anthony's to begin with. It had an M on the very tip where you break glass, and the M stands for Metcalf. The narratives and the excuses for Karmelo Anthony's crazy work. Why is that? Why do white people defend crime? Just because of the color of his skin? Not all skin folk is kinfolk.
And then they jumped him after he warned them.
Suspect. Okay.
He put his hands on me. I told him not to. He put his hands on me.
But I'm saying that young man don't deserve 35 years, who was a stand-up student, who never got in trouble before, who's never been arrested, and he was scared.
Karmelo Anthony may have been scared for his life. He was outnumbered by 200-plus pound boys, and his life was on the line on school property at a track meet.
I'm dancing. You ain't gonna do shit. I'm dancing. You ain't gonna do shit.
Like coaches wasn't around, adults wasn't around, and other students. Apparently he was in some dark alley in New York City with no cameras and nobody to hear him if he was to holler. That's the same situation, but No, we gotta stop the cap. He was on school property, open field. Everybody would have heard him if he was screaming. They got into an altercation, and when I have to keep it YouTube friendly, he decided to pick a weapon of choice, a knife, and stab somebody in the heart. Like it was a scene from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You're not killing no dragon. You're not deleting a vampire. This is a human. Then if you was using a knife, why did you not use it towards the arms or even the face? You attacking a vital organ. How is that self-defense? Premeditation, minimum 25 years. Lucky he's not serving life. Now he has a new legal team. Ladies and gentlemen, the All-Star team gets all the help in the world because of what reason? Because he's a black man? Crazy work. Let it be your own. If your son was Austin Metcalf, and even if he was the catalyst, the antagonizer, why does a bully deserve to die on school grounds? He can be punished, he can be expelled. There's other ways to discipline a bully.
A young man who got chased down and his killer got off with self-defense. I ain't never seen nobody do some self-defense shit, chasing somebody down and shooting them in the back. Trayvon Martin, come on, y'all. Y'all got all this weird energy about this shit, and you ain't saying nothing about none of these other cases. If my kid was bullying somebody, my child was a bully, full blown, it would break my heart to know they got killed for something like this. But at the same time, on some real shit, I would have to own who the my kid is. Self-defense case deserved 35 years, and Trayvon Martin's killer's off. We're asking for a fair trial. And calling that young man a murderer? He didn't walk into that track meet and just start stabbing people. Not like that young man who walked with that rifle to a protest. Come on, man. What's wrong with you people?
The Karmelo Anthony case, he was convicted of murdering his fellow teenager, Austin Metcalf. This is the kid, they were at a track meet, a high school track meet in Texas. It was raining. Karmelo Anthony, black kid, used the tent from another high school. Austin Metcalf asked him to leave. Karmelo Anthony, there was some kind of scuffle we don't know that much about, but Karmelo Anthony took out a knife and stabbed him to death. He murdered a 17-year-old over an argument. And Austin Metcalf was white. Karmelo Anthony, the killer, was black. He was convicted after the jury deliberated for 3 hours, sentenced to 35 years in prison. But people, especially black people, saw the color of Anthony's skin and supported him with over something like $600,000 in donations for his defense. And after he was sentenced, a congresswoman from Texas, Jasmine Crockett, made this remark.
35 years for a kid who had decided to go under a tent that was not his team's tent as it was raining, and simply didn't want to be put out in the rain by some random kid that he didn't know who was larger than him. Listen, a lot of people don't know what it is to live as a black person in this country, but just like you can give the benefit of the doubt to so many police officers when they go out and they shoot some black unarmed person, even though they are trained, the fact that there was little to no mercy seen or humanity seen when this black boy said that I was scared.
Oh, well, if he was scared, that's all right then. I mean, look, you know, that's 35 years. I think it was pretty lenient, frankly, what I would have given him. But still, that woman is in government. That woman is in government. So you know she's not doing anything about black crime if she's going to defend a murderer. A murderer, she's defending a murderer for no reason except for the color of his skin.
Austin fell onto Karmelo's knife trying to attack him because the knife is 3.5 inches. The cut was only 2. Loon, if I'm stabbing you, why am I going halfway with a knife blade that's only 3.5 inches? You fell onto my knife.
No evidence of Karmelo Anthony or Austin Metcalf falling into a knife. I heard no evidence of that whatsoever. And there were 21 people, who was considered for the jury. You had your grand jury testimony and all of this other stuff going on. And there was 21 people that were talked to. There were witnesses that were in attendance. Nobody talked about Austin Metcalf falling into a knife. I don't know where that comes from. And obviously because of how severe the penalty was, 35 years in prison, we're going to take into account history from an historical perspective, from a racist perspective, and we're not going to be uncomfortable with the discrepancy that exists between somebody like Casey Allison compared to a Karmelo Anthony. I got that part. But that doesn't give us a license to then turn around and to just come up with stuff that might have been, as opposed to listening to the evidence that was actually disseminated and making reaching a conclusion based off of that. Karmelo Anthony was quoted as saying to Austin Metcalf, "Put your hands on me and find out what's going to happen."
Now, with all of this evidence released to the public, are any of these supporters beginning to understand why Anthony was found guilty? Are they sorry for their incendiary rhetoric? Are they sorry for Hunter Metcalf and causing him more harassment and harm by starting a change.org petition to have him arrested for assault, even though there's zero evidence he laid hands on Karmelo Anthony? They want the brother arrested. There are literally people out there saying that they should dig up Austin Metcalf and piss on his grave and on him. Are they sorry? No. Certainly haven't expressed one word of that